Well, good evening and welcome to what will be the last of our CACE meetings, for reasons which I think we probably all understand, but for the sake of clarity, that all the issues with which climate action and community engagement are concerned now pass over to full council and can be actioned directly and hopefully more swiftly. From there it cuts out a middle band, if you like. It doesn't stop us having working groups or subcommittees or things like that as necessary, but that's for full council to deal with. So, welcome to everybody here. I understand, Peter, that you would like to say something in the public bit. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes, please.
So, over to you.
Oh, we're in the public bit.
We're in the public bit now, yes. Public question time.
Yeah, it was just an item that came up for Home Valley Climate Action Partnership. So at the moment we support 6 community gardens in the Home Valley, variously, like the Edible Garden here in Home Firth, Honley, Waldale, up at Cliff, another one in Honley. So, but we've been approached recently about the situation with the Memorial Garden or Homeside Gardens here, in that certainly last year the bedding areas in the garden were not maintained by, well, they were maintained, but they weren't planted by Kirklees, who I understand are responsible for those gardens. So I have a number of people and an interest in moving forward with a climate action related planting programme to help maintain those gardens. So my question from that, which we'll get to now, is I don't know how the parish council or Kirklees relate in terms of maintenance, and I don't know whether there are contacts that you people have in the parish council or in the CACE group.
I think there's a couple of things to say. One is that the parish council has no responsibility for Homeside Garden, or indeed a number of others. Our relationship with Kirklees, full stop, is that we are separate entities. We have relationships with them as and when things arise. So, for example, Alison's been dealing with the landscaping people around the glyphosate, etc. So it seems to go on a case-by-case basis, but we have no jurisdiction. So it's as simple as that, really.
Okay. So it's over to Kirklees then?
It is over to Kirklees, but I've recently had a lot of contact with one of the person who's responsible in this area for working with volunteers from Kirklees, who's Andy Wickham. So he is the best person to go to. He has been on long-term sick, but he's now back and being very responsive. So.
Which area of Kirklees does he work for?
Parks and Gardens.
Parks and Gardens.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll pursue down that route there. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
I think, if I could just jump in, where I know that it's happened in other places, generally a proposal is put forward to adopt it effectively.
Yeah.
So there are groups that have adopted bits of grass here and there, and I think there's a group in Brockholes that have done it up near to the village hall there. And I think so that would be, approach them to start with, and I think they'll probably ask you to put a proposal together as an organisation, and they'll check in on things like volunteer training and insurance.
Well, I think that's the route we would go, doing it as an organisation umbrella. We could get some funding for it, we'll get volunteers, we've got a lead person who's happy to take it on. It's just how we get to that point where, someone says, yes, you can do it. I didn't know whether there was any interaction with the parish council that Kirklees say, well, what do you think about it? Or no, they don't.
Unlikely.
Okay.
However, I think it would be fair to say that we as a parish council would be interested in seeing what happens next, and obviously if there is a group that's constituted, etc., then there's always the grants programme that any organisation can apply to.
Okay, well we'll keep,
keep us in touch, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can Councillor Greaves, who was on one of the Kirklees Kirklees councillors for Hunley area. I was having a conversation, and I think Kirklees will probably be quite keen to offload any gardens they can if somebody's willing to.
Well, yeah, I guess that's the case with the
Yeah.
current financial situation.
And there are deer go visiting in there, aren't there, bizarrely? Yes, there've been photos and short videos on Home First Community page and the early morning of
In Homeside Gardens.
in the Homeside
Yes.
Gardens. Yes. So deer-proof plants might be interesting.
On your small trees.
Bear in mind.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for that.
Okay.
Anything else on that? No? Okay, on we go then. Apologies and reasons for absence.
Yep, I've had circulated apologies and reasons for absence from Councillor Holmes earlier today.
She's on holiday. And we've not heard anything from
Yeah.
Councillor Bellamy or Councillor Lyles.
I haven't, no.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah, should we have the bit about recording?
Sorry?
Go back one.
103. 103. The bit about recording.
That one.
Does anybody want to
Yes.
record it? Nobody.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're right.
Sorry, Hugh. Yeah. Does anybody want to record? Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for
Sorry, how
asking.
did I miss that? Just testing.
It's a shame we weren't recording.
No.
1015. Items on the agenda to be discussed in private session. Not to the best of my knowledge. And I don't.
There's no items of sensitive.
Okie dokie. Right. Any updated written declarations of pecuniary and other interests?
Nothing received.
Nothing received. Members and offices, personal blah de blah in items on the agenda. I don't think so.
Am I meant
Nothing
to?
over here.
Sorry, beg your pardon.
Yes, I am related to Councillor Moses Crook.
Thank you.
You cite any personal pecuniary
No.
interest from anything, so I think the disciplinary officer said you didn't be
She did.
Any more? No. 108, minutes of the previous meeting. Are we content with those as an accurate record? Could I have a proposer, seconder? Everybody in favour? I wasn't here, so. Yeah, Karen? Thank you. Thank you. Working group report. So the first one is the 109, the climate action communications. So, Gemma, do you want to
Yes.
say a word about this?
So in your packs, I sent through a rejigged version of our action plan that we've been following for the last couple of years, really to benchmark where our progress is to date and then what will happen to these projects beyond the end of this meeting, once we go into the new council year. I think most of them we've sort of made recommendations on already. So I won't necessarily go through them in a lot of detail, but I'm just going to give you a bit of a run through. And then at the end, we've got all of the things that were kind of ideas at the start of the council that haven't really gone anywhere yet because they weren't prioritised. So they're still sort of ideas that are in waiting. And Councillor Whitehall will talk to you a bit about those. So just off the bat, we've got website design and rebrand. Obviously the white website's kind of up and running and it will never be finished, but we've got a bit of a development plan for new content and where it gets to. The brand is pretty much there. I will talk to a bit more about that later on in the agenda, and then a lot of these other things are sort of dependent on that once it's been rolled out. So there's things like newsletters, kind of event materials, banners, etc., etc. They, the rollout and the purchase of those will then go to the subcommittee when that is established in May. I think there's so much of those on that. So we've got councillor outreach activity. We maybe need to decide on where that will sit as to whether it will go into the new subcommittee or back to full council. And when I mean outreach activity, that's things like attending festivals and as well as our own big event that we do. We've got engagement strategies, so that's ongoing development and that will be supported by the subcommittee. We've got collaboration and community engagement activities. Again, this is going to be one that gets overseen by the subcommittee. Publicity and activities, same again. Regular communication with Kirklees ward councillors, that will then go into full council. Relationships with Kirklees officers, again, that will go into full council for oversight. Parish image and presence, that is going to be again one of those outreach things that is supported by the subcommittee. And review of print media, I think that's probably going to be something that we look at again in the subcommittee in the next year. So the climate action things that are ongoing, these are the ones that will move the most, I think. First one that we've got on here is the funding applications for decarbonising council buildings and properties. This is something that the clerk will be taking forward in conjunction with service provision and finance and management committees, depending on which building that they sit in, to identify and secure sources of funding. Park and ride scheme, that is going to be something that gets taken on fully by the transport working group, which will continue to report to the service provision committee. So that's not anything that needs any action from us at this time, because that will naturally fit straight into there. Solar panels on parish toilets. I'll talk to you a little bit more detail about that in a short while, but that will be something that goes into service provision for oversight because they manage that building. Planning commentary, climate audit for planning commentary, that is now business as usual anyway, so there's no further action needed with that one. Engaging with Kirklees officers on the use of glyphosate. We might need to make a decision as to where that work sits going forward. We can talk about that now, or we can talk about that later, because there is an item on the agenda for that. Improvements to grants process. I think the F&M committee will be doing everything to do with that and are now considering climate emergency as a business as usual part of their grants evaluation process and their awards process. Embedding the climate emergency, I think the work that we've done on committee changes has seen quite a lot of progress on that one. So I don't think there's any further actions particularly that are needed at this time, although the new committee structure will be something that gets reviewed as we go along, I think. And I know that the working group has probably still got a few goals that they fancy having a go at. So that's everything that's ongoing. And then we have the ideas not yet progressed. So I don't know whether you wanted to say anything about those ones.
Yeah, I think at this point it's perhaps useful to remind people maybe that I sent out a note when I was writing the report for the CACE committee for the public meeting, and as part of that process I suggested that it would be useful for people who are on the CACE committee to submit their suggestions for a paper to go to full council, which would outline the things that we really think need to be carried forward and recommendations for action. So it's my proposal that we have a separate group between now and not next full council but the one after.
The next full council will only give you a week to get your
That's
stuff
right.
together,
Yes.
so which isn't very long.
No. So that whenever the one after
The one
is-
after will be the big one in May, and
Yeah.
council.
Okay, so for then, a group of people who are interested, along with me, to write that paper to go to full council that says, this is where CACE has got to, these are the things that are outstanding from the action plan, and these are the things that we think really ought to be taking our attention going forward. So we're not leaving. I'm just keen that we don't leave things cold and say we're finished. This is about passing on and making sure that things happen in future. And the whole purpose of passing it on to full council was to make sure that it's absolutely embedded, either as action direct from full council or as a function of work on a subcommittee. Alison.
I just want to say yes, I'm with you on that, Sarah, because I think there's the question I have is where, if there are other initiatives come up, where do they go? I want to know where they fit. I'll help you.
Thank you. Is anybody else interested in being involved in that? Or you can email me afterwards if you or have a think about it. But I mean, there is a start made because I did a larger version of the report and then did a short one that was more useful for that purpose, really. Yeah. So we've made a start on it already, and thank you, Alison, who've already sent me some suggestions. So Mary would be interested, and Tricia.
Pencil me in, because I'm away, I'm not familiar with that schedule.
But there's lots of different ways of contributing, I think, aren't there? That's great. Thank you very much indeed. So, are we okay to move on to the Transport Working Group, or do we need to make some
Just give me 2 seconds.
decisions?
I
Other
think
decisions?
I'm setting this as an action rather than a resolution, particularly with working groups to go away and make recommendations on outstanding.
So I think maybe to say it's the combined efforts of people from the Climate Action and the Communication Engagement Working Group who are taking this as a self-contained single action, if you like. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Right. 112 Transport Working Group. Is there anybody here who's on the... Alison, you are, aren't you?
Well,
yes. Have you got anything to report?
No, except we're not moving forward very much. So the report comes out and it sounds the same as the one before, and that's because we haven't met the stops.
And do we know why?
Well, I've sort of left it with Lawrence. That sounds awful.
Oh, okay. No.
It's Lawrence's fault. But I think that's the next thing we're going to
Okay.
do. Lawrence. Put that Lawrence's fault. Because we have got some strategies, but we've got to do something. It's becoming a talking shop and nothing much else. And ditto the partner ride, actually. That has not moved on one bit.
No. There has been a request for a report, but we haven't received anything. Well, sorry, you had verbal response, didn't you, Chris?
I came to the meeting last Monday and Councillor Lyles was here, and I said, have you seen the email? And she said, yes, I'm not ignoring it, I will respond. But I mean, she was hoping to talk to the landowner at Bottoms the following day. She says, if I get a chance. I'm assuming she may not have got a chance.
Sorry to say, she said that several times.
Well,
over the
yeah.
last few months. So
I would say,
I think what she set herself to do is very difficult.
and I think I'm sure I recall having a conversation with her where I think perhaps Lawrence had offered to go and do the work, and she was reluctant for Lawrence to get all the credit. So, but that, like I said, I think it is something that if we can't bin it off and say it won't be a good idea if we could get it off the ground. So it's something for the Transport Working Group of Service Provision, which, having got rid of this committee, I might put myself forward to go on to that working group, that we could then move forward. And maybe a compromise might be that I volunteer to go and do Joe's job and I get the credit.
One way or another then, we're saying that we really would like this work to continue through the transport working group, possibly with the
Well,
engagement
I will make that
council.
offer, yeah.
etc. Mary,
I want to say something positive. There is something positive. There has been some progress, and it's the developing relationship with the Penison Line Partnership
Yes.
with the rail officer Sarah Wells, who is absolutely splendid, and is someone who is moving things on. So yes, there is some.
Yes.
There is some
that's good
progress.
news.
Can I add to that as well? Because I've been going to the Ask Conley group, which is looking at Conley railway station, but it also brings up lots of issues about joined up transport. So that does feel more positive than our working group, actually. So there is something happening there.
Is there any mileage you think in asking people to be co-opted onto the transport working group, or am I missing something here?
Well,
Would it serve any purpose to have?
Sarah Wells has joined the group.
Has she?
I mean, she got in touch in the first place.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
So, so there are positive, you're right, there are
Yes,
positive
yes.
facts, but not in our working group. Elsewhere.
Anything else then on the transport working group? No, thank you. So 113, the ongoing saga of the installation of solar panels on the public toilets. Gemma?
Do you want the long version or the short version?
Short
The short
version.
version is there's a hole in the roof. We probably need a new roof. So after lots of well, maybe not the whole roof, but big parts of the roof. So that's the short version. So what we've talked about is combining the work so that we can share pavement licenses and scaffolding and etc. etc. So that's where we're at. We are still awaiting the condition report from the architect as to how much work is going to be needed on the roof. We don't know if it's full replacement or whether it's just a little bit around the sides or whatever. We don't know. Councillor Morgan may know more than me.
Yeah, I'm just going to add that the ridge tiles and the cornerstones are loose, that's the bit that's wrong. But also they started talking about integrating the solar panels into the roof line.
Yeah. So that's
It
the
would
next.
be so that would be a new roof.
Yeah. So if that is the case, I think a lot of it's going to be about the cost of the work and the time and all of that involved. So we are looking at all options following this condition report when we know exactly what's happening. If we need to, if we are going to integrate, which seems a very worthwhile thing to do, if we are replacing the roof, we will also need to apply for an amendment on our planning permission, which obviously is another little bit of time, which is not ideal. I quite like this project after it does after a year.
No, we want it done right.
But we do want it done right, and we don't want to do it twice. Because we've
absolutely
done
not.
it once and then we've had to do it again. So that's where we are at.
Thank you.
When we were asking for planning initially, and the indication was that it might be knocked back, I'm sure this suggested that having an integrated
They
thing
suggested
would
solar
be more
tiles.
acceptable, was it?
Yeah,
Right.
they suggested solar tiles which are different and they look like just normal roof tiles and you
Right.
can't rate well you can if you get those, but
Yeah.
so it's not the same. You'll have seen the solar, the integrated one, so there'll still be like a black square in the middle of it, but it's flush with it rather than
Yeah.
and it will look better, so I'm
Yeah.
confident the amendment would be
Yeah.
approved, and that it won't take anywhere near as long this time.
Mhm.
But it's not. I had hoped to come to this meeting with a triumphant look. Ta-da! They're on there because it was supposed to start last week.
Thank you for your continued efforts.
So it'll be down to you doing the to-do service provision then.
I hope so. I hope there will be a to-do.
And they're going to get all the credit.
It's entirely possible that I'm going to be managing this project once we've got past all the kind of tendering stages or value and quote stages and things. So Jen and I are working together with service provision. It will be a service provision project going forward.
Yeah.
So sorry not to have an amazing array of.
Well,
but it will be.
It will be done, and it absolutely makes sense, doesn't it, that all the work gets done at the same time. You don't want us to drop half copy. Okay. 114, the Big Community Celebration 2025. Several of us are on that group, and we've got a meeting in a couple of weeks' time, I think. But then to do the next stage of planning. Anyway, the date is set, as you can see, as the 8th of November. So it's been booked. We've decided on a title of Our Valley, Our Future. The first stage will be for a save the date note.
It will. I'll have a draft for you at the for the next meeting, which will be the beginning of April. Yes, I'm working on the annual report at the moment, so that's
Yeah,
all
sure.
my designs.
I know, that's good. So work in progress, and we'll do our very best to make sure that it's equally as successful as the last one, the first one. Don't know, has anybody got any comments that they would like to add in at this stage?
Can I say I very much like the idea of having youth choirs and school choirs and so on performing, because I think, I mean, it was lovely last year and I really liked it, but I think that would be even better. And also, from a cynical point of view, that's likely to get in even more people because you've got parents and grandparents likely to turn up to enjoy that, and then to go around and see what we've got on offer as well. So I think that would be a genius thing if we could get that to work. Yes.
And we'll try and make sure that those people who didn't get a chance for one reason or another to have a stall, that they get to do that, if that's possible. Peter?
Yeah, on a similar theme, trying to get more of the younger people along to the events. I don't know what was done on the social media side for a very successful event last year, but there's probably quite a bit we could do as Climate Action Partnership to help in that area with the schools and so forth when you get to that point.
One of the strands, if you like, of things that we'll be looking at will indeed be our social media presence and how to extend and utilise other fora, shall we say, in a way. We didn't do a huge amount in terms of things like, we didn't do anything on TikTok, did we?
We were my hope this year is that we will be launching an Instagram and a LinkedIn page, which I appreciate. Instagram is kind of 25 to 45. TikTok, I feel like TikTok might not be the right choice for us. I know that we want to talk to young people, but I think approaching schools might be more successful and getting it out that way. Because the amount of time that has to go into making a video for TikTok versus how many people are likely to be interested and see it, it might be a lot of work for not a massive amount of return. So I think we'll possibly go through the youth clubs, go through the youth music groups, and promote that way.
Just to say, I think we've had some success with the direct approach to schools and actually getting in there and being able to speak to young people at various things that are going on in the schools. So, anyway.
And if the choir is coming or the music group is coming, we've got a much better chance of running them in as well.
Yeah.
And we've got a friendly youth worker that we formed as well, so I'm sure she can help us out.
Good thinking, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't think there are any further actions, are there, regarding planning?
I don't think so at the moment. I think the working group have pretty much got things tied up, and it's very early on. Everything's booked that needs to be booked so far, and
We've got a plan of action, haven't we?
we've got a plan.
So 115 then, the parish website.
Parish website, not a great deal to update you other than that I've started in the background making a directory and I've started researching for it. If anybody has lovely ideas about what to put into a directory, by all means drop me an email with what you'd like. At the moment it's all the P's. I've got potholes, parking, parks.
Is one beginning with D? And the second word beginning with S?
No. That is
Ignore that.
That would be with the kids.
future.
Oh, yes.
Or a P, yeah.
That is something that we could put in at some point. But
Well, all joking apart, the provision of bags is something that we do deal with.
yes, that is true.
Yeah.
So we could have that one in.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, make a note of job two.
I know you think, I know you think we should.
Okay, any questions about the website? No? Okay. 116 then, council rebrand, refresh, etc. So,
We think we're in final stages, and it's good that you're all here. I accidentally printed this on massive paper, but actually that's worked out quite well because we're meeting. So it sort of looks a bit like this, which is our final one that we've had through from Redback. I think mostly everybody's happy with where we are, unless anybody's got any major tweaks. I'm going to ask for a white line version so that I can drop it into dark backgrounds, but that's just from a practical point of view for anybody wants to use our logo on a dark background. Sometimes the people we give grants to will put our logo on, whatever it is. But that's what it looks like. For those of you that weren't involved in the development of this, I'll give you a quick scooch, a quick tour. So everything is taken from our heritage branding. So we've got the sheep, remains the sheep. What you can't tell on there is a lyre and 2 trumpets and laurel leaves, and it is just a big cluttered mess on there. So we've simpled that down to a cornet, which is very indicative of music in the area, but sort of arts and culture more generally. We have a mill instead of a spinning wheel because we felt again that spoke to the area more accurately. And instead of wheat, which we don't really grow a great deal of, we've gone with a landscape. So it all speaks to where we were. The colours are largely just muted versions of colours that we've used before. So there's green, there's gold, and there's a blue in there as well that they've used. Yeah, that one. So I'm very pleased with it.
I think, you've done a huge amount of work, and thank you very much, Julia, for all your involvement in this.
I didn't comment on this because I thought, no, it's okay with the hair out. So
I think it's fair to say that what we've arrived at here is a balance between recognition of tradition, if you like, and a contemporary feel. And that's a hard balance, I think. So it will be interesting to see what the response, if indeed there is any response to it. Are we going to do a launch?
I'm not a fan of brand launches particularly because I think it's all a bit self-congratulatory. But what I'll do is I'll sort of soft launch it through social media and sort of say, hey, we've got a new look.
Okay.
And then just roll it out onto everything. I think there's no need for like a party or anything, but I will present. I think the intention is to present this to full council in 2 weeks' time with where we're at. I'm very pleased with this. I really love how these old symbols have just been modernised, but it still very much speaks to who we are as a valley.
And it's round, which is
And it's round, so it fits on social media, and that was important to me. And when it's small, you can still see what it is, and that was the other thing that was important to me.
Usability.
And
There's
there's
no
no
Latin.
Okay.
Latin.
Well, thank you very much indeed for all your work on
Thank
that.
you for the
It has
input.
been
A particular shout out to
a
Julia.
toil of a pleasure in places,
It's
I
been
think it's
amazing.
fair to say.
Mm.
However, and yes, just to recall, thank you very much, Julia, for your involvement in this. Your expertise was welcome. Thank you. COVID memorial.
That's me.
Mary, we're at the end of the process, I think,
Well,
are we?
don't say
Almost.
that.
Almost.
I suppose the first thing I have to say is it's a shame really because we've paid for 2 cast aluminium plaques, but unfortunately with the old logo. Yeah, I
They
mean,
are-
it was a
timing.
matter of timing, we had to order them in time, but that's a shame. Yeah, so as it says in your papers there, the planting day is on the 18th of March, and it's starting at 10:30 at Sands if anybody wants to come down and
Come down and
plant
take some
the old
photos.
tree or take a photograph. So just to remind people that it's not a huge thing considering the amount of effort it's taken to get to this point. There are 12 native apple trees going to be planted at Sands, plus an oak, and 5 native apple trees at Honley Library. The Honley Library will also have a memorial garden, and we have handed over responsibility for that. We're funding some of it, but we handed over responsibility to the Friends of Honley Library. We're going to get on with it. It won't be ready. It won't be nothing like ready by the 5th of April. But someone there will talk about what it's going to be, what it's going to be like. So we've sorted out the speakers, and an invitation has gone out to all councillors today. The idea is to get as many people to the opening as possible. Yeah, it has been a massive task. It's involved a lot of people, and we thought we'd completely got there. And then suddenly, the issue of the stone plinth, John Ford, who's the maintenance contractor, is constructing a stone plinth at Sands. And then suddenly, evidently, that brings in Kirklees, a corporate landlord. It's fine to plant trees, parks and gardens, can say okay to that, which they've now done. But I think we should be all right. I think we're going to manage this stone plinth problem. But just when I thought everything was fine, nothing is ever straightforward, is it? But it will be managed. So I look forward to finishing. And I am so pleased because this initiative was started by Jason Brooke, and it must be 3 years ago. It was when he was chair. When he was chair, 22, 23. He started it then, and there are various reasons why it's taken so long, but for me it's huge relief that we are almost there with it. So yeah, please, many of you come as possible, invite people from groups or friends or family, and yeah, there will be refreshments after the opening of Honley, actually in Honley.
Oh, good. Thank you very much indeed. Is it worth asking the people who are doing the plaques whether they've actually started doing the casting?
One of them has been here
One of
for
them's
months.
here, yeah.
It's in the office for months.
Right.
In the office for months.
Scrub that then.
Yeah, and the other one I gave the go ahead to produce it,
Yeah.
so it'll be
Fine.
halfway to production right now.
We thought we were going to be doing this in the autumn,
Yeah.
and then there was an issue with the planning commissioner at the
Yes,
library,
that's
wasn't
right.
there? So
Yeah,
that's what
planning
we delayed.
commissioner's on the
And then there was
library,
planting
yeah.
season.
One
Yeah.
thing after another, but yes.
So it's been interesting.
It's involved a lot of people, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of help from River Home Connections and lots of others who are actually going to be doing planting of northern fruit trees. There's been,
So it's a
Yeah,
good example of
it's-
collaborative working and partnership.
it is, yes,
Yeah.
and obviously friends of Honley Library, so yes.
Yeah. And many thanks to you, Mary, for leading the work on this, because it's, yes,
Sorry.
it's taken its time.
And it's took, I'll have to say. But, yeah.
Thank you, thank you. So, 118, glyphosate, Alison.
Well, it's Chris and I, just to say that we went to finance and management, and they're going to renew the tenancy agreement saying pesticide free is part of the deal. But how you do that, how you get a figure which to present to Kirklees, I'm still thinking about that, because the last communication I had with the environmental chair in Kirklees was that we have to present as a scenario
Case or
here
something.
and use the Home Valley as an example, and I don't know how to do that, because the people who spray in the Home Valley are not us, because we aren't we, it's them, it's Kirklees that spray, so I'm stuck. I'm not defeated, I'm just considering.
I thought you'd spoken with Andrew Cooper, and he'd suggested that we do what we do in that we've got our own act in order, and then we go back to Kirklees.
Well,
And you
he
Chinese-
was not so specific. The only land we have are the allotments.
Yeah.
We've done that. But he was saying that you should really put a copper bottom case for why the Home Valley should be spray free.
The ground around Honley Library too.
The
ground around Honley Library.
That's true, actually.
Yes, we could, we just need that.
But I had another idea, which is to I'm just saying this out loud,
Yeah.
with no, context to it. But I went on the Zoom call that you recommended, and one of the things, there were lots of good examples that made me go, oh, right. And one of them was a community nature reserve, which that you map the gardens that are organic, and then you make a map of that, which one of the Gloucestershire villages had done. And I thought that could be a good way of saying there is an appetite in the Home Valley to be.
Is that public gardens or private gardens?
Private gardens, but it did include some community gardens and things like that. So they've mapped 150 gardens in their village. Some, like I say, community spaces, which would be like Homley Library Garden, and the rest private. And they called it a community nature reserve. And I thought that was
Interesting.
Nice, yeah.
This is
Just-
something
The
that
more that knit together, the better.
and that story that if you put all people's back gardens together, they can be as powerful as Peak District National Park, if not more so.
Just a point of information, really, the group that is the same climate action Zoom meetings that go on every Wednesday. They really are excellent. I think I've shared them in the past, but I'll share them again. Because if you've got a chance to drop in and just watch what's going on in other parts of the country and sharing ideas, and it's an open forum, and it's the place-based standards folk that are doing it, and they're really well organised and get great speakers, etc.
And we copied the biodiversity policy from South Gloucestershire. There were people doing the talk, the man doing the talk.
It was presented through, I mean, I didn't pick them at random, it was presented through, I think it was SLCC that sort of said, here's a good starting point at the very least. I was going to ask, how did they get the data on the gardens?
They mapped it. You can count gardens in a village that have signed up. In fact, I think.
So they had to actively come and sign up, is what I mean.
Obviously,
Like, how do you know if a garden is organic or
But
not?
my suggestion, what about,
Yeah,
I was going to suggest, there's the Homley Gardens event this summer,
I know.
and people tend to come and, well, the bus goes from the library on that occasion, don't they? Maybe we could try and collect data for Homley on that occasion,
Get people to sign up.
put a bit of a map together, yeah.
That's a
If
thought.
it's, what's it in your window then, saying that you are a bee-friendly garden?
So would we need to, would the stickers for the windows be something that us as a parish council might want to promote?
Maybe, yeah.
Mm.
I say,
It's a possibility, isn't it?
just talking out loud with no particular plan, but just thinking there's ways to make an argument, and this seemed rather good fun.
Yeah.
Mary?
And we're going to have a bit of a rethink, aren't we, about our grants, the conditions for grants, really. And I just wonder if this is something we could do that. I think we're going to, I hope, beef up sort of the climate emergency biodiversity requirements, conditions for grants, and we could perhaps add this, the grant that we would expect what could be used or could not be used. I mean, I think we need to be tightening up the grants in many other ways as
You're
well.
absolutely right.
But this could be something that we could do.
And there's the sort of aside, connected aside. I think it's the sort of thing where we could put a proposal to F&M Grants Committee to say we should be, this is my personal view, we should be saying we are looking for people to, come forward with projects that will do this and this, rather than it being always responsive, for us to take more initiative, really. And climate action is a perfect one to do that with, I
There
think.
are so many good examples at this meeting.
Julia?
What about all the work that Home Pride do with manual, I'm saying this with manual reading, etc., because I've done it. So, I've sat on Daisy Lane with the neighbours and the Home Pride crew, reading between the cobbles. Is that not something where you kind of say, well, this is what's going on? As an example, if you've got to be, if it goes into a test case, then we've got to show our...
in terms of just
Yes.
putting the argument.
Yes, we say, right, we're a test case, we're as organic as we can be, we're not using glyphosate. And here's a picture of these people with no knees left, digging between the cobbles on Daisy Lane.
Does anybody know whether when Home Pride volunteers are doing their digging out dandelions, work type things, whether they use any chemicals?
No.
They don't?
No, because I have sat on Daisy Lane 3 years running. All I was provided with was a nice tool for roking out in between the
Yeah,
bottles.
if you started auditing it, it's like the Magdale volunteers in Honley.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure they wouldn't use glyphosate either.
No.
I think if you went round and asked those types of people,
Yeah.
you would find out that they didn't.
And John Ford, who maintains things for us, he doesn't.
Okay, yeah, so, yeah.
So we've already got quite a list of things to add to the, yeah, lovely, thank you. Anything
more then?
Yeah, sorry.
This is Liz. They also suggested that they perhaps promote something like a Swift village. And we know where the Swifts live, don't we? Over Netherthon. That's another thing, which is home valley. Needs insects to keep it going, but that would be another initiative. They're cracking on that, aren't they?
Okay.
Some of these.
Thank you very much. So 119, councillor presence at community events in 2025.
So, if you remember, some of us did sustainable transport promotion at events in the Home Valley last year, and it was a sort of community outreach activity as much as it was promoting the buses, as much as we like to promote buses. I've made a bit of a list of the things that happen. Some of them are a bit more generic. But what I'm thinking is there an appetite to do similar? Once we've got all the brands signed off, I can start ordering banners and pull-up things, and we can maybe think about things that we hand out, which is great. But some of these are going to require us to book space potentially. So either we could book space in the same way that we do at Honley Show when we've got a table and we kind of chat to people, or there may be councillors that just want to attend and wear a lanyard and go around and say hello to people, and we're not necessarily there in an official capacity with a base, but you're getting your faces out there and doing kind of engagement work. So we start with the Folk Festival in May, and then we've got Hamley Open Gardens, which has already been mentioned today, Arts Festival weekend in the middle of June, Honley Show, which we already have done, and I do need to send back the form to Josie, which I haven't done yet because I wasn't quite sure what we're doing yet. There's Art Week here, which we've not been at before, but actually it's our building, and why wouldn't we have some sort of presence? Duck Race, Food and Drink Festival, which we did last year, Bonfire Night at Sands, big community celebration, who's ever heard of that? And then there's all the village fairs, of which most of them have a summer fair and a winter fair of some sort. All the Christmas celebrations, and then there's also the Film Festival, which is currently on, but if we're thinking about next year, we could have some sort of, not necessarily a human presence, but a literature presence or posters or whatever it might be. And I'm only bringing this up now because if we want to book space, particularly at the Folk Festival, which is in May, I'm going to have to start actioning it.
Listen.
I want to know what we're going to say to all these disparate events.
Well, this is the other question, is that if you do want to turn up, what do you want to present, what do you want to do, what do you want to talk about, do you want to just make it a general council thing, or have you got a message for the year that you want to promote?
My view on this one is that we should pass this over to full council.
Okay.
And say, we do all these things, or we have the opportunity to do all these things, we've done some things in the past. If we want a presence in the community, this is one of the ways that we can do it, but it really does need to have lots of councillors' involvement in it, and therefore it's a full council matter to decide whether we do it or we don't. And if we do it, you're signing up to say that you will make some sort of contribution as a councillor, not just say, yeah, I think that's a good idea, and then not do anything. To put it bluntly, that's my personal opinion.
I honestly do think we have to have a particular reason for going somewhere. I mean, one of the things, like for some of the festivals, is the parish council gives some money, but surely that's just in their literature, isn't it, that we have sponsored?
Usually, yeah.
I'm not quite sure what you add to it. They're wearing your
Because,
Hang on. Sorry, Chris.
Well, we could go and ask people to sign up for glyphosate-free gardens. And
Yeah.
give them a sticker if we got stickers.
That would be great, that would be great on the show.
That would work, two of them, but not the film festival one.
Why not?
But
Why not? You seem to be stereotyping. I mean, not everybody who attends will be from the Home Valley, will they? So,
no.
but that
It
would
just
be,
seems a bit too random.
well, it's a suggestion of something to occupy you if you are going to turn up and
Gathering
sit on a
data.
stall,
Yeah,
isn't it?
okay.
You just need
Yeah.
one activity really. The other could be some, you could use it as a public consultation exercise on anything, couldn't you? Like when I went to when it was the food festival last year, we were asking questions about transport, weren't we? So that's not too hard to come up with something relevant for each.
Okay. Tricia and Mary and Martin.
yeah, there's masses of things that we, I mean, you know, I was saying earlier, perhaps before you arrived, that somebody foolishly asked me the other day, well, what do you do on the parish council? And had to beg me to stop by the time I got through this. Because we do masses of things that most people probably aren't aware of. They might know one thing or two things. And to raise the profile of the parish council and what we're up to seems like a reasonable starting point. But then I think to do maybe one activity which is possibly relevant to wherever it is we are, but we're doing so many different things that we're not short of. And one of the things that occurs to me is we talked at the full council meeting, I think, about the civic and what people, about getting community engagement with what is happening at the civic and what we're going to be doing with it and what people would like to see. Well, that would be one way of getting some community engagement. I mean, there's lots of different ways, and I'm not suggesting that should be the only way, but that would be a brilliant way of getting community engagement. And we're up to so many things, there's things that we can focus on for all of them.
I was going to mention another focus for community engagement, which is to do with the response of the reference group to this terrible town. Kirklees Council update of the local plan, because having finished the first phase of that project, the next phase is to go out and talk to people about what they want, so that we have a clear view of the way that the Home Valley should be evolving, not just the housing. So that when finally the update is published by Kirklees, whenever that is, then we've got something against which to measure it. So we were planning to go out and do quite a lot of engagement. So I think Tricia's quite right. There are an awful lot of areas in which we could do some, pretty meaningful consultation.
Yeah. Martin.
Yeah, I don't think we should impose our branding on other people. Somebody said, presumably the literature given out by the people who get grants from us makes reference to it. But I don't know whether there was implicit in what Gemma said about getting a banner or a folder out and so on. There's a cost involved, and whether we need to make a decision on that.
And we talked budget in a little bit about the kind of assets that we have. We've got a little bit of budget left over on the rebrand, so I have got some money for possibly putting together a bit of a kit that can be taken out by council.
Just raising profile, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
There's
So
nothing else.
I think the thing that that's sort of an easy bit. The thing that I'm thinking about is whether we want to book tables and things. It's not a lot of money. Generally, it's sort of 25 quid here and 50 quid there. But which ones we want to book space on, and if we're booking space, are we confident that we've got enough people to man it?
And that goes to full council.
Yeah. Okay.
But with a note saying that we recommend that we do it. Or, sorry.
Yes.
The full council makes the decision.
Yes.
Do we need to vote on that?
You can have it as a resolution if you'd rather.
Yeah, why
All
not?
those in favour? Thank you. So, media and communication, 120. Publicising the work of the Home Valley Parish Council externally.
Just to note, guys, the other publications that we've had in the last, since the last meeting, which was only about 6 weeks ago, wasn't it?
Mm.
No,
It's
not
not
even
long
that.
ago.
And so there was a surprising amount. As you will be aware at this time of year, when people are receiving their sort of council tax bills and things, they will try and do a more general, what do we do, what are you getting for your money kind of, so that's what most of these ones are. We are in a period of election sensitivity again at the moment, so not featuring any individuals at the moment, but otherwise everything that's business as usual is going through.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Social media, sorry.
Just a comment really, I just think this is a massive improvement to what went on previously. It's something to record, and that's Gemma for all the work that's gone into it.
Yeah,
There's
you're
a
absolutely
due
right.
quality of professionalism which is certainly in advance.
This is the fun bit, I get to move things around the page.
Yeah.
New login coming with new
That's
Yeah.
looking really good.
Thank you indeed. And similarly, it applies to 121 under social media and website coverage. You've already said, I think, that what you're hoping to do in the fullness of time is extend the range of social media avenues that we use.
Yes. I would say that the thing that is notable from this particular period is that website hits are up. Possibly by about 50% on what the old one was as well. And I think that's to do with the accessibility side of it and the sort of SEO scores, which means it appears slightly higher up on Google because the information is presented in an easy to access way. So that's great.
Okay, thank you very much.
And the minute you signed up on branding, let me know and I'll activate it all on the show's website and do the social media.
It will be 2 weeks' time, provided full council don't decide against it.
Okay, that's what I meant. I might not be party to the fact you've signed it off, so as soon as you signed it off, if you let me have the new logo, you can go on the website and then I can do the social posters.
Super, thank you very much.
Thank you. Budget and correspondence. 1, 2, 2, correspondence. Gemma?
So this first one is, if you remember a way back in last summer, I sent you all the consultation on the West Yorkshire Combined Transport Plan, and they've published the results, so I thought you might be interested.
Thank you.
We don't always get notified that the results have come out, so have a read if you're interested. And part 2 is another consultation from Peak District. They seem to be doing quite a few at the moment, which is active travel. So that is all about how they maintain the paths really, and on the whole, and how they sort of improve walking, cycling, and wheeling routes. So what we normally do in these is either you decide to respond to it as a council, or you can ask me to stick it around all of the councillors, and I can also put it on social media, but it's up to you what we do with that.
My preference would be that it goes to everybody individually for them to respond to
There's not much
as
time.
they so which. Yes.
There's not a lot of time, unfortunately, they only get like 6 weeks, I think, in there.
16th of March.
Are people happy with that approach?
Yes.
Thank you. Expenditure. So 1, 2, 3 is the CACE expenditure against budget and earmark reserves. So Rich prepared a year-to-date projected expenditure report, which I think you've seen, and the commentary on budget expenditure is there for you to see. Gemma, do you want to make any comments? I mean, it's fairly self-explanatory, I think, isn't it?
I can do. I think if you remember last time, maybe even the time before when we were talking budgets, it's already been signed off from full council that any of the climate action budget will go into the energy projects for the outside building. So any remaining on there, and then the next year's budget as well actually is all going into the same pot, and it will be spent on the outside building. Once the solar panels are done, then if there's any left over from that, it will be things like better lighting, bit of insulation, whatever it is that they decide as part of the refurb that we'll do it, so it will all go towards that. The other bit we've got is the kind of leftover, the unspent funds from the communications and engagement fund. Now it is up to full council to make the decision on what happens to this at year end. It has already, I think, been signed off that the £1,000 that was put in for royal events, which we haven't spent on any royal events this year because there haven't been any royal events this year, will go into the EMR and sit there, and that will probably build up over a number of years until there is a royal event, and then it gets spent. So that leaves us with sort of 2,200-ish. When Rich and I had a chat about it, it looked like most of that underspend comes from the brand refresh and website budget that we put in for this year. It's always nice to come in under budget, and I think what is a good compromise is to put £1,000 of that into an EMR for assets, new brand assets.
The things that we've just been talking
Things
about.
that we've just been
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about, brand kit, full
Yeah.
of banners, whatever it is that we feel like we need. And then the remaining should go to general reserves. Now it would only be a recommendation coming from this committee, it's up to full council to put that in, but you can recommend that. Or a different version, you don't have to do what me and Rich.
I'd like to propose that we accept these recommendations
Yes.
and recommend them to full council. So I'll propose that. Any seconds? Tricia to second. All those in favour? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that takes care of everything to year end.
Da 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 da. So, do we need to say anything about, well, they're just to note, aren't they?
These are just to
101,
know, yeah.
The budget.
So because this was a slightly strange way around, just to explain, is that the budget was approved before the new structure was approved. So we've now got a situation where we've got 5,000 for climate action and 15,000 for communications and engagement. And what happens to those will be considered at full council next time, so it's just to note. I think we've already made some recommendations on that. That's not to say that 15,000 will disappear entirely, because we've got commitments to spend on publications, we've got commitments on the website, we've got, some of that money is already committed, but it will potentially be reviewed. I don't see it really changing a great deal.
Okay. And last but by no means least, items for publicity. So, we've got this period of sensitivity, as it's now called, haven't we?
It is.
How does that affect what we can, well, I assume it affects us in that we can't say what's going on, really.
The guidance on it is that you can put out things that are business as usual. You can't put out anything that may sway anybody in the electorate towards one party or another, which is a very strange situation, particularly when you're putting things out to kind of promote the council, because that's what you do as an organisation. But if there's anything that's new or particularly flashy or whatever it might be, then you have to kind of dial it back a little bit. The tricky part is that the annual parish meeting is on the 24th of March, which is 3 days before that, so we are still in the sensitive period. I've been working on the annual report, which is business as usual because we do it every year, but potentially we work very hard for it not to be political anyway.
Yeah.
And the way all
It's
the
pretty
council-
factual stuff, isn't it?
It's all, it is all facts, it's budget reporting, it's kind of a list of actions and achievements for the year, and councillors have tried to write it in a way that is readable, but also you have to be mindful of that. So that's it. I am also putting together from those facts and those things a short video for the annual parish meeting.
Will that go out on social media as well?
I'm going to publish it on social media after the 27th, which is the kind of compromise that we came to. It would have been lovely to be able to send it out at the same time, and I think I will publish the annual report after the 27th as well, but it will be available in the meeting. So that is the plan currently, and you know we backed a little bit on it. I'm up to about a minute and a half on the video. I think I'll get to about 2 minutes and that'll be
Well, that's grand.
it.
Thank you very much indeed. And that brings us to the close of our meeting. And I'd like to say thank you very much indeed to all of you who've taken part in this committee, which has run for 2 years. And I think we've achieved an enormous amount. And that's not to say there isn't more to do, of course. But, you know, when you look through what we've done during that period, and as Mary said earlier, the shift in terms of the way things were to where we are now, I think is extremely notable. You know, we should congratulate ourselves, I think, on what we've achieved. No, I'm serious, I think we should. You know, because some of it has been really hard graft, and the results have been worth it. So onwards, but in a slightly different way is all. So thank you very much indeed.
I think we should congratulate ourselves on the fact that we've found a way for the council to continue doing all this good work, but freeing up time for Gemma to actually implement the things that we want doing. I think that was.
So it's already noticeable, the extra time that I've got, and just the headspace.
I wouldn't say that's all the time
So thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, I think we should thank the chair as well, because you
Yeah.
yes, you committed to being the chair of a new committee, didn't you? And yeah, as a new council.
It's been interesting.
You reluctantly took on a
second. Yeah.
Yes. And you've enjoyed every minute of it. So, end of meeting. Thank you very much. And look, only 8:10.
Wow.
It's a record. Thank you, Chris.
No problem.
Computer website.